Okay, it's 4 o'clock on Thursday, October 11th, 2018. We have a quorum, so I will call this New Ulm Public Library Board meeting to order. First item is the approval of the agenda, which everyone has printed in front of them. I will make a motion to approve the agenda. And do I have a second?
I will second.
Okay, I have a motion and a second. We have one item to add to this. There's another resolution, a 2018-32. First reading and adoption of the approving partnership with New Ulm Public Schools and Traverse the Sioux Library Cooperative to offer school cards. And everyone has a copy of that printed out and given to them here at the meeting. Any other changes?
No.
Okay, so no other changes. So we have a motion and a second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carried. Okay, the next item is the approval of the minutes from the September 13th, 2018 Library Board meeting. So I will make a motion to approve the minutes as printed in the packet from last month's meeting. Do I have a second?
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Any discussion, corrections? All right, not hearing any, then all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carried. All right, next item is the September 2018 financial report and summary. April.
That begins on page 6 of your packet. We are 75.34% through 2018, and our budget is approximately 70.36% expended. The contractual maintenance building line will be overspent due to outstanding bills for roof and repair of a doorknob that was broken. So that line will be overspent. It is actually overspent already for 2018.
Nothing else outstanding?
No, we don't have any other big bills for that line. I got our trash bill,
Okay.
but nothing else at this point. We'll talk a little bit about it with one of the resolutions at the end with roof repair. We do have some roof repair yet to be paid.
Okay. All right. Any other questions for April on that? Not, then we'll move on to the librarian's report, with first off being the library department activities report and statistics. April.
That begins on page 14 of the packet. On September 17th, the Friends of the Library met. They approved funding for programming refreshments for 2019, so popcorn, coffee for our events. They also agreed to fund lodging mileage and per diem costs for reference librarian Lisa Sieve's trip to the MLA conference on October 11th and 12th. She's there right now. We expect that the conference admission will be covered by an honorarium from the TDS organization. They've covered professional development for us through honorariums in the past, and they still have funding available for 2018. The Friends of the New Ulm Public Library's annual book sale is scheduled for Friday, November 2nd from 9:30 a.m. to 5:30 p.m. and Saturday, November 3rd from 9:30 a.m. to 1 p.m. There is also a members-only preview sale on Thursday, November 1st from 5:30 to 7:30 p.m. If you are not a Friends member and want to attend that sale, you can sign up to be a Friends member at the door. An individual annual membership is $10. There are other types of memberships available for different amounts. The Friends ask that if you have any book donations that you would like to drop off to contribute to the sale, that you do so between now and October 27th. They will be setting up that weekend before at the library. The assistant director, so myself and Lisa, our reference librarian, attended a memory lab online check-in with the grant administrators on Monday, September 24th. We expect to begin purchasing equipment for the memory lab during October and November. We found out that they were experiencing some issues setting up a new payment system, which is why we've been delayed with the funds coming to us for purchasing equipment. So it sounds like that's all cleared up now, so we'll be receiving that check shortly and be able to start purchasing equipment and getting that set up. I attended, and our acquisitions librarian, Betty Roiger, attended a meeting of the TDS Overdrive Committee on October 24th. We discussed the regional allocation of funds for our electronic materials through the Overdrive platform. TDS announced that their board voted to match up to $25,000 in additional funds allocated by libraries for the overdrive collection. So if a library contacts TDS and says we can contribute this much more to the overdrive collection this year, TDS will match that up to a total of $25,000 for the whole regional system.
So how does that, how do we up our contributions? Is that, you do fundraising, or do we do budget manipulation, or
You could
what?
do it through budget manipulation. Some have asked their friends group. It's a topic I plan to bring up with Paulina when she gets here, our new director, to see if that's something that we can
Okay.
contribute to.
Because I know Betty had quite a write-up on the overdrive in
Mm-hmm.
in her section.
Yep, she does basically all of the purchasing for the region, just because she's very skilled at it.
Yep.
And so the region has asked her to do that for us. And so she has a lot of insight into, what's happening with that collection.
Okay.
We're part of the committee's interest is building a better collection because it's just so heavily used. There's, as Betty said in her write-up, there's holds on almost anything we can put in there. The hold lists are long. So we want to find a way to grow that collection and meet the demand. And so we're just really looking at how do we fund that at this point.
It sounds like she's playing catch-up most of the time at the popularity of some books come out of the blue. I mean, she expects some, but then others come out of the blue, like that one she talked about, that the girl book.
Girl, wash your face.
Yeah.
Seth Erickson, the TDS automation librarian, is working with the public schools to work on the library cards for all project, which you'll see later on in one of the in the resolution that was added. So we'll discuss that further. In staffing, our library aide Sue Fletcher submitted her resignation. Her last day with the library will be October 31st. So we wish her well. Our new director, Paulina Poplaska, is on schedule to start October 29th. Lisa Sieve, our reference librarian, and I have begun to review library aid applications. We plan to hire 2 library aides this time around, one to replace Sue Fletcher's position and one to replace Leah Zakati, who is done on October 13th. The youth services librarian position was posted internally on October 3rd. It closes internally tomorrow and then will be posted externally as well. And that's all I have for the librarian's report.
Any questions for April on that?
April, how are you managing staffing the library, given the fact that you've got several vacancies?
We are just being really flexible, and the staff has been really great about switching schedules, working in the children's room. There are certain times of the day when we know we have supervisors in the building who will be in the workroom, so that we can have 2 people at the service desk instead of 3 and move a person upstairs to children's. We've also been, in the early afternoons, it tends to be really quiet up in the children's room because people are at school. So we have had a page shelving up there. So they can assist people. Our pages are really knowledgeable at finding items up in children's, so they're able to help, and then they can grab a staff person if they need someone for a more in-depth question. So we've been managing it that way and just remaining flexible.
Okay.
All right, and we'll move on to programming. April.
Right, adult programming begins on page 15. On October 14th, which is this coming Sunday at 6:30 p.m., we have the last in our Bonfire in the Park series. Andrea Lynn will be providing the music and will be in Riverside Park. We were reined into the shelter at Herman Heights Park last week, but we still had attendees, and our first bonfire in German Park with Dick Kimmel went really well. So we've been enjoying the series, and we want to thank Parks and Rec for partnering with us for that, and the Friends of the Library for sponsoring it. On Tuesday, October 16th at 6:30 p.m., the Civil War Roundtable will meet, and Tom Romaine will present on the Cushings of Delafield, Wisconsin. On Friday, October 19th at 1:30 p.m., we are partnering with Castle for a book discussion with author Erin Hart. We'll be reading her Lake of Sorrows book, which is set in Ireland and focuses on topics of archaeology, forensics, and suspense set within a mystery. So we're excited for that. I've not seen her do a book discussion before, but I've heard really great reviews from patrons and staff who have seen her present before, so I'm excited for that one.
So
On
what's the book again, that one?
Lake of Sorrows, and copies of that are available at the service desk right now if anyone's interested in picking one up. And then on Thursday, November 8th, we have 100 Years Ago on the Home Front with Ellie Carlson. She is a historical reenactor, and she's going to be talking about how families on the home front faced World War I, the kinds of things they did to support the war effort at home. She's also presenting on Friday at Turner Hall on Carrie Nation, the great prohibition person. So we're excited to have her. She's coming from out of town, and we're excited to partner with Turner Hall to offer those 2 presentations from her. For children's programming, we have the Pumpkin Bling program coming up on October 25th at 6 p.m. We have many pumpkins being donated from Hy-Vee, so we want to thank them for that. Kids can come and decorate a pumpkin. We won't be doing any carving. We'll just be doing decorating, and we'll be able to have 1 pumpkin per child who comes. And then we also have the ECFE bedtime story time. The next story time will be October 14th at 6 p.m.
All right, any questions on programming? All right, we'll move on to the building update. April.
All right. So on the building update, we have a few different things I wanted to let you know about. We've had some leaking in the library from the roof again. The city's building official, Elwood Zabel, met with our vendor about it, and what they're finding is that one of the biggest leaks is around the skylight above the service desk. The laminate around the edges of that is worn out. So he's working with them to figure out what our next course of action will be, what our options are. So that I'll have more of an update for you next month on that, but that's kind of what we're finding out, is that that's one of our major areas we need to look at.
Can I ask you a question? How old is the skylight?
I don't know that, but I can find out. The 2 trees were removed outside of the front of the library, the diseased trees. That was at the end of September. The street department has us on their list to remove the stumps by the end of the fall, whenever weather and their workload allows. And we'll look at, again, as you decided last month, on replanting those trees in the spring.
Certainly opens up the visual of the Wandagog
It
area.
does.
You can see the building now.
The day that they came down, all the staff were commenting, "It's so bright in here." The sidewalk repair between the 2 buildings on the Broadway side is still scheduled for this fall. We don't have a date yet. We're working with the vendor. Again, it's weather and their workload, so we're just kind of playing that by ear, but we do still plan to have that work done this fall. And that's what I have for a building update.
That's plenty. All right. Any other questions on the building update? And we'll move on to the 2019 budget update. April.
Not much to update you on here. The city council looked at a preliminary budget at their last meeting. They did not have any questions or comments on the library budget, so I don't expect any changes at this point.
Okay, good. And last item on the librarian's report is the wireless hotspot update.
And there is some information about that for you on page 23 of the packet. At our last meeting, you asked me to contact local media specialists and get some of their feedback on whether they feel that their students have adequate access to Wi-Fi. And you also asked me to get some feedback from our staff on our Wi-Fi hotspot policy and process. So that information is in your packet for you. Overall, what I was hearing from the media specialists at the schools is that anything we can do to support students' access to Wi-Fi is great in their minds. New Ulm Public Schools are moving more towards a one-to-one where every student has a device. So internet access is going to be even more important to those students as they have those devices and they're doing more of their work, day-to-day work on those devices.
So they have the bandwidth and everything at school that they could do it. It's that they're wondering to be able to do homework and all that kind of stuff. They would need access outside of the school, correct?
Right. And obviously at the lower levels, they're not doing as much homework outside of school,
Right.
but as they get into the higher grades, it becomes more and more critical.
Yeah. Yeah, I like the comment that the high school principal indicated that the only way you can claim adequate access is if 100% of our students have internet access at home. So adequate means everyone.
Right.
So that kind of just reinforces your comment about as they go up in the grades, they're more dependent on having the devices and being able to utilize them.
Correct. Yeah. As far as staff go, we didn't have any, no one made any comments to me on ways that they wanted to change our policy. Kind of the general feeling I got was that they think our policy is okay and works well enough, and there's not really a way to keep people from gaming the system, I guess if you want to say it that way, without policing every aspect of the use of the hotspots. So I didn't have a lot of suggestions for change with our policy.
Okay.
Ever been any talk with anybody, any other system? I mean, Fairmont, any of these places that have others? Do they have similar problems?
I know in the past Chris had talked with them. I don't know all of the details of those conversations. From my understanding, Fairmont has at least 30 devices that they're checking out, and they have run half kind of like ours, where they're a first come, first serve, no holds, and then the other half can have holds on them. And they said that they have people who will stand and wait right next to their service desk for hotspots. They're in demand there constantly.
They have 30, and how many do we have?
3.
But, you know, that is, why is that?
Martin County, one of their directors, big pushes that she is wanting for their library is access to technology. And so I think it's been a priority for Fairmont to offer. They offer a lot of unique formats, and they offer an additional digital platform and those kind of things. So that's something that they focus on in their collections.
Because you would certainly think that the number of people on, that are on, and people who do not have access would be somewhat similar between the two cities.
Mm-hmm.
And that's, so I just was, okay.
Well,
It's
go ahead, I'm sorry.
It's one of those things where it's hard to know until you add more if the demand is there. Because we advertise it and we know kind of our stats on who's coming in and asking about it. Calls we're getting when one's not available is something Lisa tracks for us each month. But if we had more, maybe we would have more people coming in for them because they would feel like there was a better chance for them to be available. It's kind of one of those trial and error things, I think.
In reading through the material that you had, it certainly seems like you and the staff seems to think you're adequate at 3. That's the way I got the feeling.
Mm-hmm.
However, am I hearing you say it the other time, though, if we had 8, maybe we would feel differently?
It's possible,
Okay.
yeah. We see what sits there and we see what gets checked out, and sometimes a hotspot will sit there for a day or two and we won't have anyone ask about it, and then sometimes, especially during the summer, there in demand, and we have people calling about them all the time. We have had probably our most frequent caller move out of the area, so we might see some changes in our stats there. Someone who was very diligent about calling about hotspots. So I have kind of a mixed feeling about it. I think it would be good to add more, but I am also concerned about where they would come from in our budget at this point.
I wonder if that's, Carl, you have something to say first?
Well, my question was going to be, would it be true to say, April, that some libraries or many libraries don't have any hotspots?
That's true. We were the first one in TDS to add them, and when we added them, we just had 2 at the beginning. And then Martin County has added theirs. And I think there may be one other library, but I'm not positive on that. But for the most part, the libraries in TDS don't offer them.
And I appreciated the comment that was in the material that suggested that our having hotspots is more of a service rather than an obligation that we have to any segment of the population. I mean, it's something we can provide, and at this level is what we've decided to provide it at.
I mean, at this point, it's up to the board how you would like me to proceed with this. If you want me to explore what it would take to add more hotspots, where that funding might come from, it's your call.
If it's okay with the board, could we bring this up again when the director is here? I'd be interested to know what her opinion is.
Yeah, I agree.
I just get the feeling that the schools are saying that if there's anything that we can do to make sure that families have access to this, they would really appreciate that we do that. And I'm hearing that. So I would like her opinion.
Mm-hmm.
And I appreciate all the work you've done. It was very good, very good. Very good research.
I think the same thing, but at the same time, it'll be impossible for us to probably have enough here to provide it to anybody who does not have access. But it was certainly, if they're basically all gone all the time, it would certainly just seem to indicate to me that maybe we should be looking at adding something.
And I think people too call once and then there isn't one, and so they'll just figure there isn't one, so I won't call anymore.
Yep.
So I think we can let it go for a little while, but I'd like to bring it back up if we could. And where the funding is going to come from, that's a very valid question too. And does it fit in with our goals for the upcoming year? Does it? You know, that's something we need to talk about and answer.
Yep.
I would think it would be, if we decided we wanted to add 1 or 2 for the next year, that could be maybe a possibility. But if we wanted to dramatically expand it, it would be a conversation that we would have to look at when we're looking at the 2020 budget, I think.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And you also made a good point in under your other updates where you indicated that you've seen a drop off in the calls for the hotspots now that school started. Because you thought it was attributed to, or Lisa thought it was attributed to school starting, so patrons aren't checking them out to take them on vacation as they were during their summer months. So, but I agree with Dave that we should, probably keep tabs on, if they're being checked out all the time, that may indicate, a need for increasing the number of them that we have. But let's wait to see what the new librarian coming in at, she's going to be looking at the overdrive as well as this, so we'll see how, what she feels for the drive towards technology.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I think, too, that as we pursue and explore this further, that it's something perhaps the school district, the ones who are essentially creating the demand, if we could if we want to be a part of that, work collaboratively with them and maybe the internet providers to, make education a part of their focus as well, that we could work jointly in trying to develop some method that would ensure that all those students who need it will have access to it.
So based on that, is there something that we could look at for funding, like grants or something like that, that could be utilized for the purchase of, hotspots to compensate so that the school kids have access to them?
I'm sure there's grant funding out there that we could explore and see if it would fit this purpose.
If I might ask our resident school teacher about what he feels the access issue is for your students in your district.
That's a very good question. Sorry, I don't have much of a voice today. So, but I know that it is, our school district is working towards the one-to-one approach, especially in the middle school and the high school. And the elementary, it's being pushed down more one-to-one starting at second grade already. And we do use the certain apps and things to communicate with families, post pictures and updates, and so it is, used a lot. But as far as the demand for, access to internet, that I'm not very informed on. If families are, how they're getting internet at home, I'm not sure about that. So,
How critical would you, as a teacher, believe it to be for students outside of the school to have access?
well, we do recommend, there's a lot of learning websites that we incorporate. With my first graders, we use programs that where they have a subscription to it, and they can, with their username and password, log in remotely and work on things from home. And we encourage that at our grade level to do that. But our expectations are not quite the same as then second through fourth grade. We're now working on a personalized learning approach, and I think that they're doing much more online learning. So for them, I think it's more critical than at our grade level, but we do encourage it, that they work on IXL.com and other learning websites at home. So.
Thank you.
So it seems like still even a young age, the push towards the.
Right, and our school district also does digital days, where if there's inclement weather in the winter, rather than risk coming into school, we're authorized to have 5 digital days where it's a stay-at-home work day where they have assignments and they have to complete a certain number of things assignments to count it as a school day.
So the snow days won't have the same meaning anymore then.
Right, not right. Yep, we're authorized 5, and then if there are any more than 5, which we did use last year, we used all 5 of them. And then if we would have 5 days, and then there would be another day that we would have to make up that one.
Okay.
Yeah. So yeah, that is kind of the expectation, that they have access to internet, because then the teachers are posting directions on YouTube and then families see those videos. But as far as, what % of families are in need of internet, I don't know that information, but I could ask.
That would be interesting to learn, because if the school district is creating the demand and the necessity for it, I wonder what accommodations they make for students who don't have access at home.
Yep.
That would seem to be their issue, not the libraries.
Yeah.
I take it, Dave, that's a statewide thing then? All districts can do the same thing?
The
With the
digital
number of
days, or
days?
just the
That must be state. a state
Well, I think
rule?
it's, well, no, I think it's permitted, that school districts can do that.
Right.
But I think it has to be approved by the board,
By the-
yeah,
No,
the board
that-
approved.
That I understand, but so the state of Minnesota is saying probably up to 5 days a year that you can do this.
Mhm.
Okay.
I think so. I'm not, this is only my second year in the school district, but,
Yep.
and that was new to me when I started out there. Like, I had never heard of that,
I had
so.
glad to.
It's kinda new, yeah. But I believe that, I want to say that Springfield does that too.
Yeah.
They do the digital days, so.
It was interesting, we had a lot of snow last year, and we had a number of days off, and then school didn't really go very long, so I was trying to think exactly, were they running buses, or, okay, so now you explained part of that.
Yeah. In our school district too, we start early. We start in August. August, I think 20th was our first day of school, around there.
Yep.
And then we'll end by mid-May,
Yep.
May 17th, I think, this year. So, mhm.
Well, it
Little
seems
different.
like there's a lot of information that we need to gather yet to make a determination. So, more to come. All right, now we'll move on to the action items. We got 5 of them to go through today. First one is resolution number 2018-26. The second reading and adoption of approving the library fees and fines schedule, and you'll find that on page 29 of your packet. So the approving 2019 library fees and fines schedule. The City of New Ulm annually revises its schedule of fees. As a part of this, the library is required to update its fees and fines schedule. The library director proposes the attached schedule for 2019 fees and fines. In July 2018, the library board voted to reduce the 2019 library fines revenue budget line to $3,500, half of the estimated $7,000 revenue for 2019 if fines remained at 2018 rates. Based on this information, the assistant library director recommends the library board reduce the overdue fine for books, magazines, and newspapers per day to 5 cents, with a maximum fine of $1.50 per item, and reduce the overdue fine of VHS tapes and DVDs per day to 50 cents, with a maximum fine of $2.50 per item. She recommends that all other fines and fees remain at the 2018 rates. Changes proposed by library board members will be incorporated, and the schedule then will be submitted to the finance department for final approval by the city council. So on page 30 shows the fines, and the only difference being in the, as mentioned, the overdue books, magazines, newspapers per day, and then the overdue VHS tapes and DVDs per day have been reduced by half from the 2018 values. Everything else remains the same. Except for there was one other item in, looked like, what was it, book sale, DVDs in 2018 was not applicable, and now it's $1. So are there any changes proposed by the library board members that we want to incorporate in this, or is this sufficient?
The board did ask me to post this on the library website
Right.
after our last meeting, and I did that. I did not receive any comments from the public on the schedule.
Okay, good to know.
Just a question, and this is something I've often wondered. It's been 10 cents a day on a book, up to, how much was it again?
$3.
So up to $3. Okay. How many books a year are never returned? Do you have any idea?
Oh, boy. I don't know what the number would be, but I'm
Okay.
sure we could
Is it
look at it.
relatively a low number?
I mean, it happens frequently enough. I would say
It does.
we deal with a handful a week, maybe.
Okay.
We have some patrons who have items that they don't return, and those patrons don't come back. But we do have people who will pay for books when they've lost them too, or DVDs, or something gets spilled coffee on it, and they'll come in and confess and, and pay for the book. So.
And I did notice too, when, reading through the Wi-Fi hotspot policy, you had mentioned too that there's some criteria for them to take it out, and one of them is they have fines less than $10. So, I mean, there is evidently a tracking system in place that we know who has fines outstanding and what value they're at.
And that, I'm sorry, go ahead.
That was my other point I was gonna mention also on the hotspot. If they don't return it, is the fine equal to that amount? I mean, granted, if I don't return it, maybe I'm not gonna pay the fine either, but what is the in other words, to me, it would seem to me that the fine should at least equal the amount of the unit itself.
Right. With lost items, it's when we add an item to our system, we record what the cost of the item was. So if an item is lost, we are billing the cost of the item.
Yeah. Okay.
The maximums here, so say someone has a book that's overdue and it's overdue for 2 months before they bring it back, we'll keep charging 10 cents a day up until it reaches $3, and then that's where the fine maxes out, and then we would bill them for a lost item. So when they bring the item back and it's no longer lost, the bill for the item itself is gone, but then they would have $3 worth of overdue fines.
Oh, okay.
Gotcha.
And not all libraries must do that, because sometimes you read about, books being returned after, decades.
Yep.
And the accrued fines is way more than what the book is valued at anyway, so they must just keep accruing those. They must have a system that does that.
Right, and eventually items, after 5 years, you figure, it's even less, but after so long, you figure it's not going to come back, and you just have to purge the item from the system to keep things clean.
Okay. All right, so I will now entertain a motion then to approve the 2019 library fees and fines schedule.
So move.
I have a second.
Second?
I have a motion and a second. Any further discussion or additions or changes we want to make? All right, hearing none, then all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, motion carried. Next resolution is found on page 31. It's resolution number 2018-29. First reading and adoption, approving $500 expenditure of donation for roof repair. And the library requests $500 out of Fund 212 donations and memorials to help cover the cost of roof repairs completed September 6th, which totaled $936.85. In September 2018, Martha Schugel donated $500 in memory of Leo F. Schugel and designated that the funds should go to the library roof repair. The library would pay the remaining $436.86 of the roof repair cost from the contractual maintenance building line. It is expected that these funds will be expended by the end of October 2018. Note, in 2010, the New Ulm Public Library Board approved resolution number 2010-10 approving expenditures of donations received as designated or memorial, which states as follows: for all individual donations $500 or more, the library director will request authority within 90 days from the library board to expend those funds for the designated or memorial purposes identified by the donor. So really, what we should be doing first is doing the next resolution first to approve the donations and memorials, and then come back and approve this donation.
Sure.
So, my apologies, we'll skip to page 32 and we'll do the resolution number 2018-30. First reading and adoption approving the June 1st, 2018 to September 30th, 2018 donations and memorials, which includes the $500 donation that we'll be asking for on the next donation or the next resolution. So the attached list describes donations received by the library between June 1st, 2018 and September 30th, 2018. The library board of the New Ulm Public Library accepts these donations with gratitude to the donors, and then it just indicates we approved of it. And on page 33 shows a complete listing of all the donations, memorials, and grants, and what they were in terms of if they were cash or materials or whatever, with a total of $2,030 value. So I will entertain a motion to approve the June 1st through September 30th, 2018 donations and memorials as shown.
I so move.
I'll second.
I have a motion and a second. Any discussion?
If the amount is less than $500, exactly where does it go? $500 or more, if I understand it right, the donor can request that it go to X, Y, or Z, right?
The donor can always request where it's spent, but for $500 or more, we have to have library board approval before
Okay.
it can be spent.
Okay.
Any other questions, discussion? All right, hearing none, then all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, motion carried. So now we'll go back a page, back to the resolution 18-29, the approving $500 expenditure of the donation for the roof repair. I'm not going to read it again.
I so move.
Okay, good. So I have a motion. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
All right. Any discussion on this? I think it's really good that they donated to the roof repair
Yeah,
rather than just books.
yeah, we're very appreciative.
I don't
as
know
Mrs.
if she
Strugel's
happened to come in
donation.
on a day when there were buckets on the floor and
Just
she
gonna
goes,
say-
wow, I think I found a need for,
Are you spending that money on buckets? Is that what?
No, every time it leaks, we all lose our recycling bins.
Okay.
all right, any other discussion? All right, hearing none, then all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, motion carried. Now I've kind of lost my place. I think we go to page 34 for resolution number 2018-31, the first reading and adoption. Approving member library agreements for services with Traverse des Sioux Library Cooperative. The New Ulm Public Library contracts for a number of services with Traverse des Sioux Library Cooperative. The cataloging and automation agreement was approved by the Library Board in November 2017. The terms and agreements is from January 1st, 2018 to December 21st, 2023 to coincide with the term of TDS's contract with the automation vendor. Then if approved, all, I'm assuming, of the following will go into effect January 1st, 2019. A membership agreement, which renews automatically on January 1st of each year. Computer and network support. Terms of agreement is from January 1st, 2019 to December 31st, 2019. Delivery. Term of agreement is from January 1st, 2019 to December 31st, 2019. Interlibrary loan. Term of agreement is from January 1st, 2019 to December 31st, 2019. The contracts have been reviewed by the city attorney and he has no concerns. First off, I will entertain a motion to waive the reading, because this is like, I don't know, 30 pages of, looks like legalese.
I'll move that.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All right. So all in favor of waiving the reading, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right. So now we'll get down to, I will entertain a motion then for approving the member library agreement for services with Traverse des Sioux Library Cooperative.
I'll move.
I'll second.
I have a motion and a second. Any further discussion?
Yeah, Holly, you attend?
Mm-hmm.
We had all kinds of problems in 16, 17. It's really good now?
Yes.
I mean, you remember what I was
Yes, I do.
referring to?
Yes, I think everything is in order.
Yeah, I did.
And so no issues then with the agreements as such?
No.
And the city attorney has taken their time to read through this, and they have no concerns, so that's always good.
Yeah, the only change that I noticed was that in the computer and network support, they've become a little bit more clear on the levels of support that they're offering, so the contract lays that out a little bit more clearly than I think it has been in the past.
Okay. So do you think it's better?
It's pretty much the same as it was. It's
Okay,
just
just clearer.
Clearer.
Okay.
Yeah.
They were trying to clarify when you have a region and you have like Blue Earth County and Mankato, and then you go down to the tiny, tiny towns like Hanska, what each one of them expect from our staff can vary, and we're basically trying to clarify it and make sure that the larger systems that probably have their own IT people on staff don't need it. And so we're trying to see where most of our money at TDS goes to and how it's being spent and how it should be charged out, so.
Okay, well, that makes sense.
Sure
Yeah, the
does.
smaller libraries will need more support.
Yep.
All right, any other discussion? All right, and all in favor of approving the member library agreements, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any motion carried. And now the last one, which was the handout that everyone should have gotten here at the meeting, is resolution number 2018-32, first reading and adoption, approving the partnership with New Ulm Public Schools and Traverse the Sioux Library Cooperative to offer school cards. In November 2017, the library director requested authorization to discuss a potential partnership with Minnesota Valley Lutheran High School and Traverse the Sioux Library Cooperative. This partnership was modeled on the nationwide Public Library Cards for All initiative that simplifies and streamlines student access to public library resources. After discussion with Minnesota Valley Lutheran, it was decided that they would not pursue the partnership at this time. The library director reached out to the New Ulm Public Schools, District 88, and found that the middle school was interested in pursuing a partnership. A memorandum of understanding was created and reviewed by the city manager and city attorney. They didn't object to the terms of the agreement, but they questioned the necessity of the agreement. If the New Ulm Middle School wants its students to have library cards, the school should require this, which means all privacy issues are between the school, student, and parents. In response, TDS drafted a data handling statement of practice, which is attached, to be used instead of the memorandum of understanding. The data handling statement of practice, which was signed by TDS and New Ulm Public Schools, states how TDS will use the student data. New Ulm Middle School will also distribute an opt-out form for parents before school cards are created. The Assistant Library Director confirmed the following school card parameters with the TDS Automation Librarian and New Ulm Public Schools Media Specialist. If approved by the Library Board, these parameters will be used to create student cards for approximately 650 middle school students by early November 2018. 5 items checked out at any one time per card, no overdue fines, 5 holds at one time, 2 interlibrary loans at one time, 5 maximum overdue at one time, 1 year card expiration, expires at the end of the school year, and then extended loan periods 35 days for books, magazines, and audiobooks. So, I will entertain a motion to approve the partnership with New Ulm Public Schools and Traverse the Sioux Library Cooperative to offer school cards.
I will make that motion.
I'll second.
I have a motion and a second. Now, do we have any discussion? I know we've been talking about this on and off for the last few months. Seems like they've hammered out an agreement. April, do you see any issues of problems with the agreements that they have out here?
I don't. I met with the media specialist and the automation librarian this past Monday. 2 things that we're still figuring out the best way to do are how do we check out the items to the students? Does it happen at the school or at the library? And how do we get the items over to the school?
So if they come to our library to check out the items and they bring their school card, our systems can handle that, then checking out the
Yes.
books? Okay.
Yes, the main concerns were the sharing of data. We would create the cards and have the student data housed in the TDS system. And so we're trying to figure out a way where the students can access their accounts and check out items at the school without giving access to the TDS system to the media specialist there, because they are not employees of of a TDS contracted library.
Oh,
So we're looking at possibly a self-checkout kiosk where they could scan their card, see their own individual account information, check out the books, and then the media specialist doesn't have to do anything with the accounts behind the scenes. They're not having access to our
but
system.
how would we get the books to them then?
It'll start out with library staff taking them over most likely.
Okay.
And then based on what the use is, in future years, we'd have to look to see if we can add them as a stop on our courier and where that funding would come from.
So,
Would be
based on what you were saying, if they're gonna use that kind of kiosk thing where it would eliminate the need for the media specialist to enter the picture, so would they then reserve it online and then we deliver it and then they officially check it out? Or does it get checked out when it leaves our library, or how is that gonna work?
With the kiosk, what would happen is if say it came from the Mankato Library, it would come to the New Ulm Library for the student. We would see that it needs to go to the school. We would deliver it there, and then the student would check it out at that point.
Okay, so it's similar to delivering it from Mankato to our library.
Just an extra step over to the
Yep.
school.
Okay,
And then the student would have the same access that any library patron does to their online account, where they can go in and log in and see their checked out items, renew items, make requests on items that way. And so we'd be doing training for the media specialists and the teachers to show them how that account works so they could assist their students too.
so taking books out using their student card seems to have a more relaxed system than ours in terms of the stipulations, fines, overdue, all that stuff.
Right, because we know some students are doing research projects where they need an item for longer. If we're delivering items, it's not the student's fault if we can't make the delivery or pick up in time to meet their due dates. That's why we're looking at the no fines. And the fines would be a barrier to access in this situation where we would maybe see more opt-outs if parents saw that fines would be assessed.
Are you foreseeing how many times a week dropping books off?
To start once or twice a week, I
Once or
think.
twice a week?
And we just have to go based on demand after that.
Yep.
And then would the pickup be the same thing? They'd, when they return the books, they'd return them there at the school and they'd pile them up and then we'd bring it, reverse of what the process was to check them out?
Right. I'm imagining that if we go with the self-checkout kiosk, items would not be checked back in until they reached the New Ulm Public Library, because the media specialist would not have a way to check them in. at
Okay,
the
but they would
school library.
collect them then and get them back to you?
Yeah,
okay.
so we do a pickup and a drop-off from the same time.
Courier would simply drop off and then bring the other ones back here.
Yeah.
Okay.
April, do library staff have access to a city vehicle for that purpose, or would they be using their own vehicles?
We do have access to a city vehicle if we wanted to use that, or we could pay mileage to the staff.
So if we had access to the city vehicle, would that be something that would be charged to the library then, or is that something that's, free for all city?
We are charged the gas we use for it.
Okay.
Just, if this becomes popular, I would say that would be a spot for, you should be able to get somebody to donate their own time to be, I think there'd be plenty of people around town that would donate their own time just to deliver books rather than staff having to do so
Sure, as a volunteer.
as a volunteer.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and I think that can go over real big.
Okay.
And the only other thing I have with this, if this goes well with public school, are you going to go back to Lutheran school and/or the Catholic school?
We are using the middle school as the pilot school, and so I would imagine that if it goes well with the middle school, we would expand it to the rest of the grades within the public school, and then look externally. But we're, within TDS, we're the pilot library for this program, but I believe the automation said there was another library who is exploring this with their local school as well, but I'm sorry, I can't remember which library that is.
And I take it TDS has no problems with it?
No, they're really leading the project at this point,
Okay.
so.
Now, one of the things I didn't see mentioned in the list of parameters there was, what if a student loses their card?
If the student, just the physical card itself.
Yeah.
If the student loses the card, at this point, we're not attaching student IDs to the cards. It'll be just a randomly generated
Right, I wasn't
barcode.
worried about that, but I'm wondering, because I think if somebody loses their library card now, isn't there a fee or something that gets, to get them a new one?
There is. One of the things we talked about with the media specialist was when the cards are issued, we would make a binder with the student names and barcode numbers so that they could help the student use that. We can issue a new card to the student, but we did not discuss whether or not we would charge a fee for that.
Okay.
At this point,
I guess we'll have to see what happens, how many lose them, and,
right, yeah.
or the dog eats them or something. All right, any other questions, further?
Never use that excuse.
Any further discussion or questions?
Yeah, would it be feasible to include, since they're going to be going through the process of signing these kids up for cards,
Mhm.
would it be feasible to kind of piggyback that with us finding out more about their home Wi-Fi availability? Would there be or is it even worth considering having them check a mark, do you have Wi-Fi access in your home? Would that help us later on down the line when we come to look at the hotspot issue?
The opt-out form would probably be our only chance to get that information. And right now, we're only requiring the opt-out form be sent back if they choose not to have a school card.
Okay.
We are not requiring any kind of application for the school cards because the school has the information needed to create a card in their system.
Okay.
So I think we could try to do that, but it would probably be pretty spotty information we'd get back
Sure.
at this point with the way we're planning to do it anyway.
Well, that brings up a good question, though, too, about the use of Wi-Fi. I know that currently ours are not reservable, but if a student wanted to come in to the library to get one and use their student card, would they be able to do that?
We did not set up a restriction against it, so it'd just be based on the parameters of the Wi-Fi policy. I mean, they can use their school card like their regular card, and we're also not preventing, if they have a school card and they already had their own card, they can have the two cards. We're not going to police that either.
Isn't our policy require that you have to be 18?
I think so,
Just
yeah.
gonna say,
Oh, yeah, you're right.
Just gonna look that up.
Yep, yeah, it's in the,
was either
yeah, I did
18 or
remember reading that
21,
in the
I
policy.
noticed
Yep, okay.
18, that's right.
All right, any other questions or discussion? All right, then all in favor of approving the partnership with New Ulm Public Schools and Traverse the Sioux Library Cooperative to offer school cards, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, motion carried. I think that's all we have, right, April? You have nothing else?
Nope.
All right, then, thanks, everyone. Meeting adjourned.